A minute or so's worth here of intro blurb which probably needed saying earlier. People get confused. I know they get confused because I've seen it in the comments. They see videos endorsing as they see it the mainstream narrative, like Mark Stein radically misreading the vaccine data, or Dinesh D'Souza and his 2000 Mules lies, etc. And they say, when did he change sides? When did he start working for Pfizer? And other such moronic right-wing conspiracy gobbledygook, or as they like to call it, critical thinking. This was always faulty first principle. I was never on your team or any other, so don't blame me for your bogus projecting. I'm not interested in far right-wing conspiracy theories. Bill Gates is all a hoax, vaccine genocide. And I'm not interested in far left statist propaganda. The COVID thingies are safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. The 2020 election was the most secure in history. I'm not on your team. I'm not your bro. Don't accuse me of changing sides from a side I was never on to begin with. And don't use my videos to pretend I'm saying something that I'm not. That particularly bears saying before a video like this, which errs on the skeptical side. Oh yeah, Bill Gates vaccine genocide. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what I'm saying and nothing else. If, on the other hand, you like a dispassionate approach, i.e. one which points in either direction, whether it's mainstream or not mainstream, then I encourage you to subscribe and follow this channel, and to encourage other people to subscribe as well. Help! And to subscribe to my Subscribe Star, and to encourage others to do that also. I've got to do something to get that side of things moving, and I'm open to any and all suggestions. But the lack of tribality is a problem, because people like content creators who are on their side, and I'm not on anyone's side. And if you don't like that dispassionate approach, with my blessing, toddle off to BitChute and brand YouTube and all the critical thinkers, all the fakery, all the hoaxes. There's nothing for you to see here. You got it wrong. Okay, point made. This has received a lot of exposure recently. Healthy young people are dying suddenly and unexpectedly from a mysterious syndrome as doctors seek answers through a new national register. People aged under the age of 40 are being urged to go and get their hearts checked. May potentially be at risk of having sudden adult death syndrome, aka SADS. SADS is an umbrella term to describe unexpected deaths in young people. A 31-year-old woman who died in her sleep last year may have had SADS. A 31-year-old woman who died in her sleep suffered from sudden death. How ridiculous is it possible to be? You're simply repeating the fact that she died. You're not saying why she died. There's an obvious potential candidate for this. It doesn't need naming, and indeed it can't be named on YouTube. The article doesn't give us any kind of a timescale for this. It doesn't suggest this is anything other than something that's been going on since the beginning of time, since the first amoebas climbed out of the primordial slime. Young versions of them suddenly started falling over and collapsing, clutching their chests. You'd think that to read these articles. They say nothing about whether this has been going on for a long time or a relative short time. So anything which would point us in that direction would be useful, and this does. This is a Freedom of Information request from a Midlands ambulance service, and I have confirmed via email that this is genuine. The FOI officer says, I can confirm this is a genuine response provided by the West Midlands Ambulance Service. There's a cottage industry out there in the production of fake news. You know, like those videos of people with bits of metal stuck to their chest. Oh, this proves they're being injected with microchips. Or that one of the apparent hospital doctor saying, the vaccines are about to be withdrawn. And the critical thinkers pile in every time, and they get taken for mugs every time, again and again and again. So it's worth checking, even when it seems as obviously genuine as this one clearly seems. It's always worth checking. From the West Midlands Ambulance Service, Dear Duncan H., further to your inquiry, which we received on 25th of April 2022, you requested the following information. Can you please tell me, under the Freedom of Information Act, the amount of call-outs for patients with heart conditions per year between 1st of January 2017 and the present day? The amount of call-outs for patients with strokes per year between 1st of January 2017 and the present day. If possible, can you also give me the total number of the above patients who are under 30? Can you give me the monthly stats for each year, please? Response: please find attached a spreadsheet containing the information you have requested. And that's the person who responded to my email questioning whether this was genuine or not. This is the spreadsheet. That's a bit of preamble pointing out that these are issues recorded at the point of call-out. If an issue which is diagnosed by the ambulance team as heart or stroke related subsequently turns out not to be so related, it remains recorded as such in the call-out stats, and if they don't diagnose it as heart or stroke related and it's subsequently decided that it is to do with the heart or stroke, then it won't be in the call-out stats because the ambulance service didn't diagnose it as such. These are the stroke stats, and there is nothing anomalous, nothing to see here. But the heart issues do have a lot to see. 2017 to 2019 is all of a muchness, nothing sticks out. But in 2020 things start to change. This muddies the water somewhat because in 2020 there were no medications and yet there were anomalies. So the first half is of a muchness. There are increases in March and April, but they settle down in May and June. But in the second half of the year, every month sees an increase in the related call-outs compared to the same months of the previous years. This is odd. We can't blame the medicine, and this undermines the medicine's potential involvement post-medicine. Because if there's an increase pre-medicine, which isn't caused by the medicine, obviously enough, it can't be ruled out as a possible cause post-medicine. So is this lockdown related, lockdown stress? I have no idea. So going on to 2021, in every month there are more heart-related call-outs than any month in 2017 to 2020, substantially so in several. And in the last 3 months of data, 2022, the same pattern continues. Then going on to the under 30s, you see the same much of a muchness in 2017 to 2019 and the same increase in the second half of 2020, which again can't be explained by the medications. But then the increase in 2021 going into 2022 is much bigger. And a bit of the old tables and charts might clarify all of that. So this is all ages comparing 2021 and 2022 month by month with the monthly averages. Example, January, that's the January average of 2017 to 2020. That's the January 2021 total, which you can see is 3,000 call-outs compared to the 2,000 average, which is a 50% increase on the 2017 to 2020 average. And it decreases next month and slowly builds up towards March just gone. And that's the percentage increases, again, each month from January 2021 onwards compared to the previous 4-year monthly average. Big increases. Going on to the under 30s, same deal, 305 is the 2017 to 20 average, 385 in January 21, which represents a 26% increase, and you can see how the percentages shoot up much more compared to those previous overall numbers. Percentage increases 2021 and 22. The big increase starts in April, then up to almost 3 times as many call-outs in July, and the increase stays very strong all the way through until the most recent data. A couple of things to consider. Don't forget that in the second half of 2020, when there were no medicines for anyone, young or old alike, there was a big increase in ambulance call-outs, which are not explained by the medicines, which is true for all ages and the specific younger age group pretty much equally. Whatever explains that must also at least be considered as an explanation for the subsequent increase, although that subsequent increase is much greater. And also exactly when it is that the under 30s start receiving their medications also needs to be considered, because it was a lot later than the older folks, and that might then eliminate the medications as being a possible causal factor. So 25 to 29s started getting it in December 2020, but only very, very few. The amount of this population whose April call-out, April being where the radical increase starts, the amount whose April call-out could be explained by the medication is 17%, or 1 person in 6. So it's not flowing through very many veins at this point. July was the big increase, almost 3 times the average, and by then 40% of 25 to 29s had had the thing, and even the younger 18 to 24 age group was at 25% at this point. So the medicine is not disqualified as a possible cause. You could have a lot of call-outs from a relative minority of the population, and it's not all that small a minority. It starts at around 15% of the under 30s who had been medicated at the time where you see the big increases. So the medicine is not ruled out here. It is not the case that since the beginning of time young people have been falling over clutching their chests in agony. Well, okay, it's true to a degree, obviously it is, but this indicates an increase. And if you tally all the differences between the 2017 to 2020 monthly averages and the 2021 and 22 individual monthly totals, you get a grand total of 15,713. Quite an increase. An average of 50%. This is useful because it compares now to then. In other words, it puts it in context. Random accounts of this and that happening is all very interesting, but it doesn't tell us anything about the previous situation. It doesn't put it in context. This does. More of such would be very useful, and to that end I sent a substantially similar request to my local ambulance department. Dear Sirs, if possible, I would like to request the following data in monthly format from 1st of January 2017 up to the most recent available. The number of call-outs for patients diagnosed with heart conditions of any description at the point of call. It would be useful if you also list separately the number of the above patients who are under the age of 30 in similar presentation format. If it were at all possible to repeat the above process for those suffering from strokes, that would be a useful addition, although I am primarily interested in the heart call-outs. I would anticipate the data being in a spreadsheet with years and months listed and with the relevant totals in the relevant boxes, but I'll obviously leave that up to you. If it's of any interest, I am a Hampshire resident. Thanks very much if possible. I'm sure you're very busy. Yours faithfully, the one and only. Will they respond? Maybe they will. They haven't done yet. It mightn't be a bad idea if other people did this, because if it was possible to get this kind of information from ambulance services the length and breadth of the country, that would be extremely comprehensive, and any anomalies, like the anomalies that we see in this data, if that was then repeated across the country, it would be very, very, very clearly indicative of a problem which is now just emerging, and not something which has been going on since the beginning of time, as suggested by the mainstream press. So if people can put in their own freedom of information requests along the lines of what I did, that would probably be extremely useful. Did you remember to like the video? If you didn't remember, well, you can always like it now.